Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is Grand Arena, the first match of Season 38. We begin this season in Kyber 2. We were able to remain in Kyber 2 throughout last season, which I'm pretty happy with. That's the differences that now having Jabba and Dr. Aphra have made to my roster, along with Grand Inquisitor and the right data CRON. So even though we have 3 GLs, we've been able to survive in Kyber 2. We're right on the line though, so we need to keep winning this week in order to hold on. For the recap, beginning of the week, we do this each time. We are going to do this a little bit differently because I didn't post the videos for these matches. So I'm going to show the offense and the defense so you have an idea of what's going on here. So use the timestamps, especially if this gets a little long. I'm going to be as brief as possible. I went 1 and 2 for the week. The first 2 matches, though, they both show the types of rosters and defenses that were causing me problems, and I expect are going to continue to cause me problems with Kyber 2. They're the rosters that have a lot of relics, and especially when those relics are weighted toward top-heavy rosters, where we get where there's a big advantage in the tier 5, 7, 8, and 9 relics. Rosters like those tend to stop my non-GL counters or the important counters up against high-quality teams like Malgus and stuff, where they're not a GL, but they're close enough where if you don't have, where you have a limited amount of viable counters to go up against them. So round 1 here, Darth Diblet, I did not full clear, he did, and what happens with a lot of these opponents is they have enough weapons to have a lot of wiggle room up against my defense, whereas I have very little wiggle room. And what you'll see here is that when one of my counters fails, I then have to go to another important counter, and I start losing some of the key counters I need to have to go up against other teams, and it has this domino effect, which ends up preventing me from getting a full clear. Because I had a pretty good plan here. It's just what you'll see is that some of my normal counters not working. Aphra up against Jabba, that's straightforward. Grand Inquisitor tried it up against JML because I needed it to, but it's really Barriss is what's stopping this. Just how that Zeta works, it was able to pretty effectively nullify what's going on with Grand Inquisitor and with the Datacron. My Starkiller failed up against Rey. That is a counter that I can't really afford not to work. We have Traya here taking out Grand Inquisitor. That's fine. My gas fails up against the Malgus. Pay a little bit more attention. We're going to talk about that one more. Fifth Brother here taking out Qui-Gon. My Fennec losing up against Lord Vader. That one I expected to lose. My Fennec works up against the Thrawn versions. Doesn't really work up against the Maul versions. I was just hoping I'd get lucky. But I'd really need to have relics on these characters to have a shot up against Maul. And my Fennec's not even really modded correctly. She needs to be slower for that counter. You'll see in one of the other matches that it works up against Thrawn, but Maul, much consistently beats me. So here's what I want to pay attention to. We attempt this again later on. This works. And the issues here are the Datacron is the revive one. You can still beat it with the revive one. The issue was I did not hit auto early enough because it was newer to me. This was something that my brother stumbled upon and mentioned to me that was pretty interesting. JKR here, I attempted to bring back in up against JML to try and just lop the head off with Barriss or Jolie, but I don't get it to. They just don't get. They don't make any damage up against it. And JML here. This is why I'm emphasizing my current project right now is increasing my overall relics. Because of the trade-off I've made in order to unlock things as quickly as possible, to have Dr. Aphra, Jabba, Grand Inquisitor, I have all that already. And I had Grand Inquisitor from December. In order for me to do that meant I was not increasing relics on other characters. And we're starting to see that in Kyber 2, that is going to be pretty critical for me to rectify. JMK ultimately takes out the JML. My JML cleans up the Rey. This JTR Swallow I attempt. There's no evidence of this working. There is evidence of BB-8 versions beating Raddus, which is why I wanted to give this a shot. But my BB-8 is at gear 11, so it's not something worth me testing, but nothing too promising here, except the redeemed Omicron on Swallow did take out Bay's Malgus here. That's how that happened. That was pretty interesting. Troopers here up against Newt. Savage cleaning it. This Troopers thing, this is more of if it would have worked, it would have helped me out. It does work sometimes, but it's very RNG dependent. It would have saved me having to use my Savage there because I wanted to use Savage elsewhere. And what that means is, like, some of these other teams I'm trying to take out, Wampa I end up having to use to take out Raddus, which I didn't want to do because I wanted to use Wampa up against Mon Mothma. The Tuskens, this worked earlier up against a weaker version of the same Mon Mothma team, but at this level of relics, it was too much for my Tuskens to take out. If you go to earlier, the previous week of Grand Arena, you'll see like lower relics or mixed relic and gear 11 version that the Tuskens beat. Kestis, this was just random testing. They did not do well at all, but there's no leader here. It'll be more interesting this week with the Kestis testing. Shakti up against Bam, that's a standard counter. This Vader one, I don't recall. I think I must have misplayed it or something. I don't remember how that went. Jawa's here. This was Hail Mary territory. We Malik this, Sortie. You can see that now we're out of counters, and we're just throwing in teams, seeing what works, doesn't work. Eventually, we take out Hux. We do it later. Hux we take out with Finn. I probably should have tried that sooner. Crew here takes out Lando, no problem. That's all we can do there. Round 2. Very similar kind of defense. You see the same thing. Starkiller Raddus. Starkiller Ray. I don't get the RNG I need. This is a different version with Poe and also has the Datacron. Fennec here again, the Maul version. Don't really stand a chance. Don't even make any progress. Gas Malgus, full Relic 7s. My gas counter falls. It didn't really do well. Both these opponents had good mods. Aphra up against Jabba, that's standard stuff. My JMK, you can see, doesn't do anything up against this Vader, and we're going to be stalled out up against this Vader. We clean up Rey with Wampa. JML, Lord Vader, try and see if I get lucky. We don't. Shakti, standard. Fifth Brother up against Basila, standard stuff. JTR Swallow. I attempted again because this was a different comp without Baze. Baze was being a big nuisance. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of progress. Nothing really works here. I think I attempted to take out Cassian with Swallow, but I ended up quitting that match. Traya to take out Raddus, because at this point I didn't really have much else, which is going to limit me later on. This was a strength testing situation. I can clean up usually with my Bad Batch, but off with all the cooldowns ready to start right away, they just get blown up by Iden here. This is with the Gear 11 characters, this is not something to try. JKR cleans it up or takes it out. And then here you can see me attempting a little Grand Inquisitor Malgus thing. Not recommended because they don't really do well up against the Sith, but I wanted to see what the Datacron would do. Final match. This one was a timeout. I played with an hour left to go. I was hoping to record, and my day was just too busy and didn't go as planned. So I fit in as many battles as I could, but I still won because my opponent only did the minimum battle. So you can see this. Some of it doesn't work. Like, this is a counter I really want to strengthen up. I really want to take Starkiller higher, get my Sith Eternal Emperor to Relic 7, so that these can work more regularly, but we get through it without too much trouble. And see Fennec here working up against Lord Vader. This is because it's a Thrawn version. Gas up against Malgus, and here you see what I was pointing out in the first round. Hondo here taking out the Malgus with the revived Datacron. That was just a matter of hitting auto early, and I also think it helped that these other characters were different. Or they weren't even in the battle that much. Maybe the Relic was different or something in that, or the Datacron was different in that first match. Grand Inquisitor taking out JML, no problem. This is the difference that Barris not being there has. And then JMK taking out JMK. Those were all his GLs, and had I had a full clock, this guy would have been a full clear. Now, in terms of how my defenses did, I didn't show them in the other... Actually, we're just going to skip the defenses, because I'll show one as an example. Here's what was happening. Up against both of these guys, they were tripped. He was tripped up by Dash and Han. There's this Datacron on it. And he gets tripped up by Padme a few times. And he has a lot of trouble up against my fleet. First round, this guy I want to show briefly, because he gets tripped up against my Qui-Gon. This Ki-Adi-Mundi combo, even at Gear 11, holds pretty consistently. At least once a week it was getting holds for a while now. And then my Newt also trips him up, which I was happy about. But that was about it for that opponent. For this week's bracket, we have 3 opponents with 7 GLs, 3 opponents with 5 GLs, 1 with 6, and I'm the outlier, as always, with 3 GLs. Omicrons, my opponent has 13. We'll see which ones he is missing. Relics, though, this guy I'm worried about. He has the most relics in the bracket and is the type of opponent that is usually I'm going to have trouble up against. We did do some Grand Arena prep over on Twitch. I've been doing that at least 1 to 2 times a week, where I just look through my opponent's history and plan out my strategy. We did that with this one. His defense is soft enough where we can clear him, but he saves enough on offense that he's just going to one-shot my board. Then the Gear 11, you can see no advantage there. He's got a very deep roster. With the relic distribution, here's the other thing that I look at that causes problems. You can see the advantages he has at Tier 5, Tier 7, more than nearly double of mine. He's got more in Tier 8, 1 more in Tier 9. That's enough to cause problems, and really what it's enough to do is to stop my non-GL counters. It's why, as I said in the history review, my current project is to strengthen my relics. 6-dot mods, you can see I have an advantage here in counts and quality. His mods do need improvement. He has some fairly slow mods, especially considering how many 6-dot mods he has. But the relics are probably going to offset that. And he does participate in Datacrons, which is pretty important. This bracket in general is doing a pretty good job with Datacrons. There are only 3 players without any level 9 Datacrons. You can see he's got, again, all the GLs. In terms of the rest of the bracket, 2 players without Jabba, 2, not counting me. Well, I guess let's count me. 3 without Lord Vader, counting me. I'm the only player without Sith Eternal Emperor. I'm the only player without SLKR, and 4 of us don't have Rey. The rest of the bracket, though, let's take a look at Omicrons. This is a surprisingly weak bracket for Omicrons. Usually I've been seeing opponents in that 14-15 range. Really, there is only 2 of us who are above 13 Amis. That's fairly atypical, I'd say. And relic-wise, we talked about how good my opponent is, but the rest of the bracket is more in that range that I expect to see between like 130 to 150. And mod quality, where do I land? I have the 3rd best top 25, no, not 3rd, 4th best top 25 mods. And the top 500, I have the 3rd best. Amis, 2 players somehow don't have Malgus. That's weird. We are looking at 1 player without Starkiller. 2, there's only 4 of us with the Savage Omicron. Again, that's an Omicron that I think anyone should put on. Like, that's usable early. And it's already good at gear 11. Traya, Ami, players are much better about it this time. Last round, there was maybe, we're seeing like half a bracket. Now there's only one player without. I am the only player with Dr. Aphra. 3 players don't have Swallow, and nobody rushing Zori or anything. I'm going to double check that Omicron and see if it's something I'd consider or not. I don't think I am. And the rest of this is fine. Just pay attention to the Darth Revan when we take a look at speeds. With the hotbot here, we'll do this quickly. There's less and less we're taking from this. But what I like to highlight most of all is the undersizes and clears, which are pretty low. Normally I think is a good sign, but from his Grand Arena history, it's not from a lack of participation. It's just, I think, if it's from the types of things he's been going up against, and with how soft my defense is, it's not going to be an issue. He's going to hit. He's going to one-shot me. Relics, again, are excellent, and that's all we're going to touch upon here. I guess we'll do it a little bit slower so you can look at some of these speeds if they interest you. But we're going to move on. We spent enough time on the history. So this is footage that I recorded separately. I'm just going to talk over the footage. I was feeling a little sick, and I was sniffling a lot and coughing, so that was not going to make for good footage for me to cover. So we're talking over it after effects. So Darth Revan there is the final of the 300 speed characters. So that is 31 characters above 300 speed, which is pretty good. Even though his overall mod quality is not amazing, the modding is solid enough. So taking a look at the defense, there are some changes here. Partly, some is for testing, some is because we have new things. Sana is on defense now. What she's really doing is replacing General Grievous, he should have come off of defense a long time ago, but my defense is weak and I need to put something down. But really, I needed to determine if my Grievous can be a Starkiller counter at the level that it's at, which is a little suspect, but that worry turns out to not be justified. We'll see that later. Now, I did update some data creds. I don't think I had Jabba last 5v5. I think this is my first 5v5 with Jabba, but I might be misremembering. Back territory, no changes here. I don't think we got those squads, and fleet, no real changes. Although I do have new relic on pilots to strengthen my Chimera. Now we're looking at a BAM, JML, Grand Inquisitor squad, and CLS with a Datacron, but he does not have the level 9 ability, which will make things easier. I think I'm going to try something risky up against it. I want to see if my Savage can handle it. Savage can solo CLSs, but I think this one is better than any I've soloed. The Relic 8 on Han and the Relic 6 on Chewie, I think, is higher than any I've soloed. Plus the Datacron is going to boost things, so I think I'm going to give it a chance. Like, here's the deal with this opponent. If I slip up, I can't slip up in order to win this. So what I need to do is I need to make a decision. Do I want to do testing, or do I want to try and just one-shot full clear this guy? And I'm still going to be at risk for being tripped up somewhere. And what I ultimately decide is I think it's going to be best for me to do some testing. So I'm going to do the testing, even though it is going to cost me the match. I'm assuming the guy attacks. And that's the thinking that I was having. So what we see on the back territory here, we've got Lord Vader, Qui-Gon Jinn, and a strong Iden squad, and Malgus. I'm going to start with... What do I start with? We're going to start with the Qui-Gon squad, and this is going to be a Jedi counter. And let's get to the large view. So with this is a standard counter. I was debating whether or not to use this or Night Sisters. Actually, when I did this Twitch stream when we were doing the Grand Arena prep, I decided to use Night Sisters at the time. But I decided I wanted to get rid of the RNG component and just go with a strong counter. Just because of the relic levels that this guy has. Just knew that I didn't really want to start off in a deficit position, especially when we might need some of these teams later. I think I'm going to slow down some of this footage. I think we're a little fast. We will do it after this match. Because this is a standard, straightforward match. So, like, we lose Bastila, but she's gear 11. We'll bring her back. We're just taking it easy. I don't want to use the revive too early, so we go with the basic. Don't take any chances. Go with the direct focus onto Anakin. And we lose Obi-Wan. And this, again, is why I decided I didn't want to revive right away. Because I was concerned that if I revived right away, I might lose somebody, like we just lose Bastila again. And now we're in a situation where, okay, we got to play things a little slow to make sure we get another revive ready before the end of this battle. We're going to take out Yoda, though, because Yoda's the only one who's really going to take out anyone. And now you'll see me switch to some basics and slowing the battle. Now, I probably had enough counters from Jolie that he'll revive. You'll see me check the turn meter in a moment. We're at a bunch of turn meter, so I'm going to... There, I bring her back and get the banners. Next up, and the beginning of this is just going to go pretty smooth. I'm going to go up against anything hard with real counters, and then we're going to shift into that test mode and see what we can learn about all these new characters. Because what I really want to be testing is I want to test Kestis and Cere Junda. I want to do that in multiple ways this week. I want to test them under JTR. We'll test Kestis under JTR at least. And I want to test Cere Junda lead. We also have Tuskens. We've only been able to test Tusken Warrior in the 3v3, so this is going to be the first week of 5v5 testing with the Tuskens. So all these characters I want to throw in, see what we can do with them. Right now we're going to go with JMK up against Lord Vader. We could have tried to go the Fennec route, but with Maul, I just don't like to do it, because Maul just puts me into a position where it could blow up my Fennec pretty easily, because I don't have full relics on all those bounty hunters. And you see the damage that Maul has. And you can imagine had that been one of those squads, like Zam, he would have blown it up. I think I just realized I had sound effects off, and now they're on. I'm being a little careful here, but this is, now that those datacrons are gone, this is much safer, especially in a 5v5 setting. So I chose to use Cat's sacrifice onto Stormtrooper at the start, just because I thought he'd be easier to take out, but I think that assessment was wrong. You can see that I'll shift over to Royal Guard because he was the easier of the two to take out. Maul, where at every time that it's JMK's turn, we attack, and now Maul is gone. It's going to make things easier. And that's the same deal. Now that we don't have to deal with taunts, we take out Vader. Then we shift to these tanks. With the locked ability block, I don't do the cooldown reset. Could have saved that cleanse, but I decided to go for it. Royal Guard eliminated. it's time I bring up the relics on a few of these characters. So my JMK is relic 6. I've been slow on just because it's not a huge deal, and it wasn't a huge deal when there wasn't always a relic 9 Vader. Now that a relic 9 Vader's much more close to standard, that assessment needs to adjust, and it's also time to have higher relics on my cat. So those two characters in particular, I need to have more competitive. Now I'm manually playing this right now because I want to make sure that Lord Vader is putting the cooldowns on the right characters, but we're at a point where I need to hit auto pretty soon, and it is going to be close. So with 30 seconds left, I make that change. And you'll probably see the AI make a dumb choice or two. And we're close, and we get it with very little time to spare. Now, Malgus, gas counter. We've got options to clean this up, but this is a little easier in 5v5 than it is in 3v3. I'm going with the tenacity up Datacron. Might not be the best one for this squad, but there's at least a little bit of tenacity synergy. Very quickly getting through the protection on my gas. Way quicker than I was hoping for. Almost lose arc. But they're getting distracted and throwing their attacks elsewhere, so I get a little lucky and they don't take anyone out in the first go-around. They're also being a little slower in taking out the protection, so I go with the tenacity up. Maybe I should have waited, but I decided I wanted to get some of the stacking effect of that Datacron going. Even though it would have been valuable to have it like right now. And there's ability block, so maybe it doesn't even... A scenario to use it doesn't even come up. Yeah, like we wouldn't even have been able to use it had I tried to save it. I was thinking about it while I was playing, though. Those guys are down. Marauder will leave in a moment. An aerial advantage. And now we're just focusing on Malgus, and there's the second of the tenacity ups, and from here I can probably auto. Do I do it? Yeah, still haven't autoed. Nah, I guess I never did it. All right. Now we've got Iden, and I debated this because I was tempted to use Tuskens to see what would happen, but I used Tuskens in Territory War, and Iden destroyed them, which is what she should do. But there are things within the kit that they should work. And I should say I did use Tuskens up against versions of Iden before where it did all right. But though they were not fully relic. They were weaker versions of Iden. So I decide we're not going to do any testing here. Let's keep going through this battle, and we're just going to use something safe. So we're going to just Wampa the Iden and move on. Because I was fairly... Yeah, here you see me debating it. Like, do we do it? Do we do the testing that I just love to do over here? But I think I make the smart call that just watching those guys get blown up is not really going to be worth it or interesting, and hopefully there's something else on the back wall for me to do some testing up against. Because that's the concern. This guy's defense is good enough where it's not really affording me many testing opportunities. So I don't want to lose the ones that I have when they appear. But ultimately we go safe. Yeah, so we're going to blow this up. Not a huge deal here. Once you get through shore, this is easy. There's only one tank. Yeah, now he'll be gone in a hit or two. He's taunting again, which will make it easier. It'll focus the counters onto him. Magma down. We just got to control the targets to make sure, because Wampa wants to go after Iden. So we got to just click off of it and click the right characters. And then from here, we are done. Now this is a change here, so Jabba's on the back wall, which was not in his Grand Arena history because last 5v5 was a month ago and he did not have Jabba a month ago. So he did change things. And I also think the Grievous wasn't on his defense. So there are things that we need to play a little differently. And some of what I had planned out doesn't come to fruition here. It's also harder in a way where some of the teams I was hoping to test against are no longer on defense. Like, there's no Mon Mothma team on defense, which was in his Grand Arena history. Now, the Jabba, though, is not a problem for my roster. And we'll take this out fairly easily. I'm going to miss this Datacron. I'm a little concerned that what this Datacron has done has made me a little lazy with some, like, the Jabbas. Because it's just like, you don't have to think about it. It's very reliable. It's never in question. This is as safe as it could get. So during this period where we don't have to deal with Jabbas all the time, I'm kind of not taking the opportunity to get familiar with other counters. But usually my opponent's defenses are strong to the point where I kind of need to make the choices that I do. Now this guy, there may have been a little bit of room for trying out some other things, but not much. So now most of the main things are gone. We're going to shift into some testing soon. No, we got to take out the JML. There's a couple more teams we're going to take out before we get to any real testing. So Grand Inquisitor, we're going to just take that out with a Traya. Traya is just a strong, strong counter to Grand Inquisitor. And you can see mine is gear 12. I do have Sith Marauder now at Relics. I did that. I'm slowly working towards Sith Eternal Emperor, but it's also, I mainly put the Relics on right now because of his ship. Because I wanted to make my Chimera better. I wanted to make the Sith Bomber better. Because I'm using it as on the front lines now. This is not going to make a difference though, because this opponent he's ultimately going to one-shot my defense. It's kind of like hinting at it, that it was a possibility. That possibility turns out to be very true. But my original prediction during the Grand Arena prep was I was not going to have an issue full clearing this guy. And that was also true. Yeah. The damage immunity is on Fifth Brother, so we started taking attacks elsewhere. We dispelled that, so now we're hitting Fifth Brother. You know what? I'm recording this while I should be doing my Fleet Arena climb. We might lose out some crystals. Because I'm not going to stop this. So I think I'll talk about this because we've been doing some Twitch streams a lot lately. Really, Tuesdays and either Saturday or Sunday has been when they've been usually happening. We've done once or twice we've done some extra days, but the Twitch stream will be a regular thing moving forward. And it's fairly casual, just Conquest, roster reviews, and Grand Arena prep. And I've been doing some trivias and other things to keep it loose. But we're still working towards getting, I think you need 50 follows to become an affiliate there, so I'm a couple short. If you guys go on Twitch ever, give that a follow. I would appreciate that. And we'll keep doing other things. At some point in the future, roster reviews will be closed off again. But when I'm trying to build up something new, I like to do roster reviews in an open format where it's just like a first come first serve basis. So probably for another few weeks we'll be doing that. Now Grand Inquisitor here, JML, you're like, well, how is this going to go? I think that was the Savior there was triggered or not. But here's Eighth Brother coming in, just blowing them up. Debated about who to put Torture on, but with where the turn meter was on JML, I decided to throw Torture on him. And then the AoE takes out JML anyway, so not a concern. Ripped him apart. Now we've got CLS, BAM, Starkiller, and Grievous. 4 teams left. Now we're going to do some testing. This first one here we talked a little bit about. I want to stress test my Savage. Now, I debated whether or not I should do this or should I just try and go for the win. And I decided I'm probably going to win the next 2 matches this week. So I'd rather, since this match is by no means guaranteed or not, I'd rather go for the testing in this scenario, and we'll take the wins later. Because this is the hardest guy in the bracket. So once we get through this guy, I should be okay. But I wanted to know for the rest of the season, how's my Savage looking? And you can see this is looking scary. Because we've done this counter a couple times, and I don't think we can keep doing this counter. Not up against this quality of CLSs. And now that Jabba is going to be a fairly common GL for a lot of players, especially in Kyber 2 where I'm competing, I expect we're going to see high quality Hans very regularly. So instead we're just going to, I think I debated this for a moment, how I wanted to approach this, but what we're going to do is, yeah, I'm just, at this point, I'm just trying to remind myself what all these squads are, because I need to decide what I'm going to do where. So we're going to do the Grievous test here. I want to see if my Grievous can handle this Starkiller squad. So we throw in BB-8. I don't know why I've been so concerned about this. It's like everyone's at relics except for BB-8 and B2. And BB-8's job is to get turn meter off the start, which he does, and it was great. Now going after Visas. Visas eliminated. I should have been doing this the whole time. I'm a little annoyed at myself for not giving it a try earlier. Because there's definitely matches that should have gone differently had I not kept leaving this on defense. Yeah, but it's nice and safe. And I didn't do anything to optimize it or anything. I just, whatever it was, it was. We'll come back to Grievous. It does have the Droidica level 9 Datacron. I still have several good teams left. We've got JML, CLS, Starkiller. I almost go Starkiller. But with the preloaded turn meter, I decided maybe I didn't want to do that. And with the Relicate Han, because they could just blow up Palpatine right away and then it could fall apart. So I decided, okay, we're not going to do that. Let's do my own CLS, because I have the advantage, because I have the Chewpio Datacron. And I have not used it really at all yet, especially not in a Grand Arena context. During the end of 3v3, I opted to leave it on defense. So I throw it in, and you can see with like the protection up and stuff that we're getting, that we're just ripping them apart. Definitely keeping this on offense a lot. So I got to test out all of the GL countering capability of this Datacron, which it does exist for some. I need to familiarize myself with more, because we might be using that a lot more regularly. Now, here's the tough part. This BAM squad has now turned into the last best option for character testing. So that's what we're going to go for. So you can see Cere Junda and Kestis. I'm going to double check the unique, see does it make any sense at all to throw Cere Junda in here, or should I be using other characters? I decide, whatever, let's do it. Let's throw it in, see what happens. This is not a good team to do it because there's multiple AoEs and stuff, but I want to try it out anyway. Just because I want to see these characters, and I'm intrigued by what we see. I'm going to do Cere Junda lead next time, but I wanted to see at least Cal under JTR. So Hondo is the only real threat, so I want to take him out first. It's kind of tough that we don't get under stealth, and then BAM wipes him out, which was disappointing, but at least Hondo is gone because he did throw capture onto somebody, and then when they were taken out, he was taken out. And the rest falls apart. So we don't get it. We don't really get any information out of that testing there. Although I did use Cere Junda and Kestis in Territory Wars, and I do think they're going to be 3-star Gear 11 viable. There's enough stat boost and stat sharing where it kind of works. Now the Jedi here. We're going to JML this. You can see I don't really have great characters left. And this Droideka Datacron is maybe something we need to consider. And I think I probably played this wrong. But what really hurts me here is we don't have Jedi Knight Revan. So B2 revives. There's no big deal. We'll take him out again. Except I should have tried to take him out right there. Because I think I missed a window by not taking advantage of that opportunity. Because I don't want anyone to die. Because we don't have Jolie for a revive. And that puts me in a bad position. So IG-100 goes down, and now it's just like, what all happened? Now we got Jedi Knight Luke's doing all right, and I got to make a choice. But because of that Datacron, I forget what it does right now, but I looked at it before the match, and I just decided let's try and take out B1 first. And just get wiped out. So you can just, that would have been fine with Jedi Knight Revan. Without Jedi Knight Revan, it does not really work the same. And here's that, what that Datacron does. And at this point, I forget what I think I used Bounty Hunters to clean it up or something. Because we still have plenty of good characters. Yeah. Really, I should have taunted for the frenzy, but I didn't. It doesn't matter, but that's what I should have done. Blow him up. Back to Bam. We still have Starkiller. We'll just... I might be done with testing or not. I don't recall if I do more... Oh, I want to do Tuskens. That's right. Okay. So we're going to throw in the Tuskens. And this is... Isn't obviously not a good matchup for them. Really, you want people with like more assists and stuff to... With like multiple attacks for the Tuskens to take advantage of the momentum. But I am kind of pleased with it. Because what you see is they are able to do some decent stuff. So what I'm trying to make sure that this ability is not evadable. And above 15 stacks is not evadable. So I could have used it, but he had the Quill, the Mechanic Savvy or whatever it's called, so I decided it was probably going to be a waste to use it on him, because even if it did take him out, he would just be revived. So I was hoping for the taunt to go down. Now I use it. You can see we almost take out Quill, and it worked to the level that I think maybe I should have gone after Bam and not Quill. And you can see how Chieftain's Unique is working, getting everybody stunned. All I want is to be able to take Quill out. We lose Shaman, not a big deal. But it's why I was hoping for a little bit more stat sharing in these kits. Now here, you see me attempt, and you can see that was with a far lower amount of stacks. I think had I gone after Bam in that first attack, I probably would have taken Bam out, or at least gotten pretty close. Now damage immunity is back up, and we're starting to get into a position now where things are getting probably in a non-winnable position. Very little clock left. Chieftain goes down. We've now lost the unique. Did get a nice big hit on Bam though. I debated about going back and forth, but I decided I didn't think it was... We were going to get stuck behind taunts again. We didn't have Chieftain, so I just decided to call it and be done with it. Just bring in Starkiller and just decide we're done with this. Move on to ships. We got enough information out of the testing. Would have liked to get some wins, but I'm satisfied that we at least learned some information about how to use these characters. I think I was trying to figure out if Mechanic Savvy stops stuns or anything. As you can see, Bam's being super annoying. We get our stun. Just calling for the assist. Unleashed. We wipe them out. Now for fleet, this is kind of a mix. Because first we're going to start with the Profundity up against Executor. He does not have the Houndstooth on the front line. This is going to be pretty straightforward. Great assists. We wipe out Cad Bane right away. Now we're going after Razor Crest. Everything's going according to plan. Wipe out Razor Crest before Houndstooth comes out. So now they have no chance to win. They make us go through IG 2000 a couple times. But we get there and we'll wipe this out. Get our assist. It's already won at this point. And that is eliminated. Now this next portion here This is going to just do Malevolence, standard counter. It has Ahsoka on the front lines. This stuff would beat a ton of times. Maybe it's a relic level thing. Maybe it's misplays. But this does not go well for me. And, oh, you know what? Actually, so did they fix Undying Loyalty? Is that what's going on here? Because I probably misplayed this. I think I definitely misplayed this. I mean, there's no question I misplayed this. So we're working on this guy. Throw some Vulture droids over there. So Undying Loyalty's gone. He's under stealth. That's all fine. Throw Undying Loyalty back on. Not ideal, but whatever. He heals up, gets rid of all of that stuff. I bring out Spy. We get some bad RNG, so I focus over on the Y-Wing, take it out. I think I was just playing too fast. There's a dumb move somewhere in there. I forget when I made it. I think it was also refusing to trigger Undying Loyalty earlier. Maybe it'll happen in these other battles. Because I was expecting it to come off and it didn't come off. So I almost did Scythe there, but I decided I wanted to know how these other battles were going to happen. I bring in Raven's Claw. This one really I should have played later. But I wanted to see... This is another strength testing thing. It's like, how does this ship look in a cleanup scenario up against the Negotiator, which I don't have a lot of experience doing because usually we're never cleaning up the Negotiator. So we trigger the sacrifice, we lose my tank, we lose B1. We can pull turn meter, so I take the turn meter away from Ahsoka. But you can see how little damage we're doing. And then Plo comes back. It's just, we can't really do enough. The fleet did what it was supposed to do, is just wasn't powerful enough to do anything. So now we got finalizer situation. Maybe this is when what I'm thinking of happens. So bring in finalizer. Again, these are our Gear 11 pilots. I don't have relics on it. I only have relics on crew, and I guess on Kylo. So yeah, he throws Undying Loyalty down. Trying to decide what I want to do. Do I want turn... Everyone's close enough on turn meter that I decided I wanted to get rid of the buffs. But here, yeah, this is what I was thinking of. I mean, I get a little too cute here. I keep trying to... I want the Undying Loyalty to just come off on its own. Because I don't want him to go under stealth, because I want to take him out. So I'm looking for like a buff immunity. None of those abilities had buff immunity, so I go over to 5s, and I don't go towards. Originally, I didn't want Ahsoka to put Retribution up, so that's what I was thinking with some of that, but it's going to happen. Yeah, and then he goes under stealth anyway. Heals up again, and I'm just annoyed with myself at this point. And he doesn't. This is the thing. He doesn't come out of stealth. He should have come out of stealth at that point, but he's still under stealth. So we blow up Ahsoka. I'll blow up some of this other stuff, but now my tank is gone. going to swap with Kylo, take out Anakin. And all this gets blown up. He can't do it on his own. Not up against relics. It does okay. We lose him. I'm gonna make a strategic error here. It doesn't cost me, but this is a mistake here. I'm taking in my Raddus fleet up against these final two ships. This was dumb. Because I probably could have used like my mace with some leftover junk to take out those ships. But at this point I was like frustrated with myself, so I just wanted to take it out and be done. So we used the basic onto the tank, MG100, bringing the abilities. Get some hits. This takes longer than I'd like. You can just see how tanky some of his stuff is because of his relics. And how these are all Relic 11 pilots, so you can just see that the difference in damage. Look, this Plo. Still haven't taken anybody out. I mean, I think it was, maybe this wasn't a strategic blunder considering how much these guys, how long it took to take these guys out. And there we go. Finally taking it all out. But the problem is, and why I consider this a strategic blunder, was I did not know how this battle was going to go with the Scythe. Now, I was assuming it was going to be fairly safe. And it turns out to be fairly safe. But had this not worked, I would have probably needed the Raddus to clean it up. And using the Raddus how I did when maybe Mace could have taken it out, I think that was a mistake. You know, this is going pretty well. The one thing that I wonder about, like, even though I think this is a good lineup up against a lot of things, what I don't like is I don't get to use my TIE Defender all that often. Also, I don't know why the Clone Sergeant is under stealth for so long. He's going to take turns and stuff and stay under stealth. I don't even know what is allowing him to be under stealth. I don't know what is within the kit here that does that. I mean, it's probably on Hondo's kit, but I don't know. I don't recall seeing that ever before, where Clone Sergeant goes under stealth after you take him out once. So we'll clear it. We will... I'll add the recap to this right now. So this match I was always expecting to be a loss. Because with how weak his defense is, that's the next round opponent. He was going to have enough weapons on offense to full clear me. And that's what we see here. We'll click on all these so you can see it, but this is a one-shot full clear. which is always my suspicion and why I decided to go for testing, because I thought my odds of winning this were going to be fairly low. Especially, like, I probably could have one-shot his squads. Well, I probably would have still done the JML thing up against Grievous, so that would have gotten a hold. But the other teams, we would have been able to one-shot without any testing. But the issue is, Fleet probably would have gone the same. I was just trying to be done. I was not trying to test anything out on Fleet, other than Raven's Claw. And here, that's one shot. The relics did not change the Chimera. At least this match. But next match, things look pretty strong in my favor, and I expect that the final round should be alright too. So we will return with that. And we will wrap it up there. Back with Grand Arenas, and probably be seeing some new kits soon, as well as hopefully we get some interesting news from CG. But thank you for watching. Be safe out there, everyone. Be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.